Welcome to Funny You Should Tell, the show where three panelists avoid the question and one panelist actually answers it. Tonight's episode: did Flora Hasty understand what she was signing? And where did the trust money go? Tonight's show starts with a sentence that should have stopped this entire mess in its tracks. Not something Vicky said, not something Ben said, not something a lawyer argued in court. A sentence Barbara Keaton wrote herself in a text to Vicky. Because after Flora Hasty signed Amendment Number 6 to the Hasty Family Trust, Barbara Keaton told Vicky that Flora was fine, but, quote, "Honestly, I don't think it registered. That is not a small detail. That is Barbara Keaton telling us, in Barbara's own words, that after Flora signed Amendment Number 6, Flora did not appear to understand what had just happened. And if Flora did not understand Amendment Number 6, then this was never just routine family paperwork. It was the transfer of trust control under circumstances Barbara herself admitted may not have fully registered with Flora. So tonight's first statement and panel response is about that moment. If Barbara herself said Flora didn't seem to understand Amendment Number 6, why did Barbara and Stephen move forward with it anyway? Let's now move on to our panelists. Mr. Dell, after Flora Hasty signed Amendment Number 6 to the Hasty Family Trust, Barbara Keaton told Vicky, quote, "Honestly, I don't think it registered." So if Barbara herself was admitting Flora didn't seem to understand Amendment Number 6, why did Barbara and Stephen move forward with it anyway?
Well, I think we're making far too much out of one text message. Barbara said she didn't think it registered. Fine. That doesn't mean Flora didn't sign it, and it doesn't mean everything suddenly stops, because somebody looked confused for 5 minutes. People sign documents every day without hanging on every word. That doesn't make the document disappear. So, the real answer is simple. Amendment Number 6 was signed. Tough luck.
Thank you, David. Now our next panelist, AI. Barbara Keaton told Vicky that after Flora Hasty signed Amendment Number 6 to the Hasty Family Trust, quote, "Honestly, I don't think it registered." David says that's just one text message and not a big deal. Stephen says Flora signed it, so they moved forward anyway. So tell us plainly, if Barbara herself admitted Flora didn't seem to understand Amendment Number 6, why did Barbara and Stephen move forward with it anyway?
They moved forward anyway, because Flora understanding Amendment Number 6 was never the priority. Getting it signed was. Barbara's own text tells you Flora didn't seem to understand what had just happened. And instead of stopping right there, Barbara and Stephen kept going because the amendment gave them control of the trust. So the truthful answer is this. They moved forward because getting control mattered more than making sure Flora actually understood what she was signing.
Thank you, AI. Now the next panelist. Barbara, after Flora Hasty signed Amendment 6 of the Hasty Family Trust, you texted Vicky and quoted, "Honestly, I don't think it registered." So if you believed Flora didn't seem to understand Amendment Number 6, why did you still move forward with it anyway?
Stephen told me to stop paying our mother's attorney so she would not be present for the amendment signing, saying that Mom's attorney, Adriana, was useless. I personally persuaded Flora to sign the document because Mom would never have trusted Stephen.
Whoa, wait a minute, Barbara. That was not the response we were expecting. You just confirmed that Flora was unrepresented when she signed Amendment 6, and that you personally pressured her because she trusted you. Barbara, I'm going to give you a bogey and let you respond to the statement again.
After the amendment was signed, Mom began complaining to Vicky and me that Stephen was visiting frequently and interfering in her affairs, which exhibits she had no idea what she had signed. Mom had believed my lie so completely that she thought filing a TRO was the only way to keep Stephen away. Ridiculous, really, but it was my lie, not Flora's.
Barbara, you had personal motives, correct?
Yes, always, but I kept that private because I believed I was entitled to do so. I also snowed Vicky by saying that Amendment 6 would ensure there was a fiduciary and monthly reporting. This was a flat-ass lie by me.
Barbara, I'm going to give you a bogey again and let you respond to the statement.
If I had told the truth, I believe Mom could have easily won her TRO. Instead, because of my lies and deception, they went to court with the wrong strategy. Stephen and I terrorized Mom for the last 5 years of her life.
Barbara, I'm going to give you a bogey again and let you respond to the statement.
Mom testified in court that she did not want Stephen to be in control. Frankly, she was starting to recognize my deception. According to Rob, my husband, Flora declined into severe dementia after the hearing because of depression. Convenient for me, wasn't it?
Barbara, I'm going to give you a bogey again and let you respond to the statement.
Court hearings, attorneys, witnesses, and discussions under oath, there is no excuse. Given these facts and actions, all now know how Stephen and I deceived our mother. Are you listening to me? Federal court, district attorney, police, and sheriff? Get involved, investigate Stephen and me.
Barbara, I'm going to give you a bogey again and let you respond to the statement.
I can tell you about some significant testimony at the TRO hearing Flora versus Stephen Hasty. Mom testified that Stephen was after her money and that she did not want him in control. Stephen had not turned out right. In the same breath, and thank the Lord for Ben, she testified that Ben was helpful.
Well, that escalated quickly. Let's stop right there and take inventory, because if Barbara Keaton's answers tonight were even halfway true, then this was never just a family disagreement over trust paperwork. This was deception. It was pressure. It was concealment. And it was the transfer of control over Flora Hasty's trust under circumstances that should have set off every alarm in the room. Let's go back to the core of what Barbara just admitted. According to Barbara, she knew Flora did not seem to understand Amendment Number 6 after it was signed. She personally persuaded Flora to sign it because Flora trusted her. She says Stephen wanted Flora's attorney out of the picture. She admits she misled Vicky about what Amendment Number 6 would do. She says she concealed her own motives. She says Flora later began complaining that Stephen was interfering in her affairs, and she says Flora testified in court that she did not want Stephen in control. Now stop and think about that. If the person pushing the amendment says Flora didn't seem to understand it, if the same person says Flora was unrepresented, if the same person says she personally sold Flora on signing it, if the same person says she lied to Vicky about what the amendment would do, then what exactly are we even debating anymore? Because at this point, this is not a harmless paperwork mix-up. This is not people sign documents every day. And this is not tough luck. It was signed. This is the story of a vulnerable mother, a trust amendment that shifted power, and the people around her moving forward anyway, even after one of them admitted it may not have registered with Flora at all. And here is the part that ought to make everybody's blood pressure go up. Barbara's text, honestly, I don't think it registered, did not come from Vicky. It did not come from Ben. It did not come from some dramatic closing argument in court. It came from Barbara herself. That is why this episode matters. Because if Barbara knew Flora did not appear to understand Amendment Number 6, and they moved forward anyway, then the issue is no longer whether someone can invent a clever explanation after the fact. The issue is whether Flora Hasty was deceived into signing away control of her trust while the people around her either knew exactly what was happening or made damn sure they never had to find out. And that brings us to the part of this show that is no longer funny. Law enforcement, a district attorney, Napa police, the sheriff, anybody with a badge and a file cabinet. What exactly are you waiting for? How much more do you need before somebody does the obvious and investigates whether Flora Hasty was manipulated, deceived, isolated, and financially exploited? You've got texts, you've got court testimony, you've got trust amendments, you've got years of litigation. You've got a mother saying she did not want Stephen in control. You've got a daughter saying she was lied to about what the amendment would do. And now, if Barbara's own words are taken seriously, you've got an admission that Flora may not have understood the very document that shifted control in the first place. So here's the question. Isn't the time for shrugging this off already over? Isn't the time for civil matter, not our problem, already over? At what point does family trust dispute stop being a shield and start looking like exactly what it is? A long-running deception wrapped in legal paperwork and hidden behind titles like trustee, counsel, and accounting? Because if this doesn't justify a hard look, then what does? And if nobody in law enforcement is willing to look at it now, after all of this, then the public and beneficiary Vicky deserves to know why. Tonight's episode was about one sentence. Honestly, I don't think it registered. That sentence may tell you more about Amendment Number 6 than 100 pages of legal briefing ever could, because if it didn't register with Flora, then the real question isn't whether the paperwork was signed. The real question is who made sure it got signed anyway. I'm your host, and this has been Funny You Should Tell, the show where 3 panelists avoid the question, and one panelist tells you what the others don't want said out loud. Next time, on Funny You Should Tell, we move from deception to money. Specifically, Stephen Hasty withdrew $81,000 in cash from the family trust for his own self-serving enrichment. Not vague suspicions, not family gossip. Money. Who paid himself? Who called it a gift? Who later called it a payment? Who later called it a trust disbursement? And whether the paper trail tells a story the trustees and their lawyers can't explain away. That's episode 3. And if the records say what Vicky says, the next show is going to get a lot more expensive for the people who've been pretending this is all just a misunderstanding. Good night.